So this will be about how I went from horror to crime thriller writing. Kind of a an overview of why I pretty much changed from just writing horror novels, novellas, short stories to writing crime thriller novels, novellas, short stories. I'm going to give you the I'm going to give you the simple answer first. Okay, money. I mean that's I got to be totally honest. Money. I've said this a million times. There are writers that I hang out with once a month. We go to the Chinese buffet. There's three Mikes and a Win and an Amanda, and every single time we go, I always have to throw out there just to be a jerk, just to be funny. I say I make 10 times the amount of money writing crime thrillers than I do horror. Now maybe it's not ten times, but it's pretty darn close if I actually crunch the numbers. And I'm going to tell you why. Quite simply, horror readers are a rabid readership, but there's not a ton of them. And what the horror that I write is way different than the stuff that is everybody is loving right now. Okay. So right now, extreme horror is huge. Splatterpunk, although most of these people say they write splatterpunk and they don't, they write extreme horror. I'm not going to define anything. You either know or you don't know. I will say that I don't write this stuff. I write more quiet horror. I write more Twilight Zone kind of horror. Okay. Now I've written extreme stuff. I've written a bunch of extreme stories and whatnot over the years, but I feel like I've mellowed out in my old age. I don't want to write crazy, over the top, people getting ripped apart and crazy sex scenes with monsters, or I don't want to do any of that stuff. I don't read it. I don't like it. So why am I writing that stuff? So I stopped, and I realized that you know what? I feel like I tell a better story when I'm writing a crime thriller, when it's just people, when it's things that could happen to the average person and whatnot. So about 10 years ago, yeah, 10 years ago, I wrote Dirty Deeds, which was my first crime thriller. And it led to a 12-book series, life changing. Check it out. You'll love it. And the idea started as a horror story. I've told this story 100 times, but I'm going to tell you again real quick. The original title for Dirty Deeds was Killing is My Business and Business is Good, Megadeth. And it was about a hitman who killed children for money and how he had to live with himself. And it was dark, and I wrote some of it, few chapters, 5, 6 chapters, and I was like, I have kids, you know, like my kids are, at that point, one of them was 15, the other two were, you know, 19 and 20. I'm like, I don't want to write this stuff. So I trunked it. I put it away. I'm like, I don't want to do this. And then Kindle Scout came up through Amazon, and they were not looking for horror. They were looking for thrillers. And I was like, you know what? I had that idea. Maybe I'll play with it a little bit. And instead of James Gaffney killing children, he supposedly kills them, but he moves them to a better situation. So there's no children getting killed. So for me, I was like, you know what? That's a good premise. That's a better story. And I don't want to write a horror story. I want to write a thriller story. And so that's what I started doing. And when that book got picked up by them, and again, it led to 12 books and a couple of spin-off series now. And I was happy. And I had always read crime thrillers. I had always, my mother, I'll get to my wife in a second. My mother had always read Alfred Hitchcock magazine, Ellery Queen magazine, those. So I had always read them as well. And, I'm a big Dean Koontz fan. And Dean Koontz has way more thriller than horror in most of his stuff. And so that was like kind of the thing. Like I had read a lot of it over the years. And I knew, when the first couple Alex Cross books came out by James Patterson, I enjoyed those. And I was reading a lot of just random thriller books, like I used to and as a teenager and into my 20s, like I used to with horror. And I still read horror. I still will write an occasional horror short story, but I realized that my wheelhouse in writing was a crime thriller. I'm not a big fan of political thrillers. I'm not a big fan of courtroom thrillers as a reader or as a writer. I love noir. I love dark stuff. I don't need a happy ending for me to be happy. And so I just realized that, I mean, honestly, this is a business. And, a lot of new authors I talk to, and they're like, oh, I write cyberpunk and I write westerns and I write hard science fiction, and they're on and on. And I'm like, write because you love it. But it's a 1 in a billion shot that thing is going to sell enough for you to justify that you've spent all these hours doing it. And that's just the reality of this. It's a business. Again, 15 years able to do this full time and make a living doing this. It's not a great living. I'm going to be totally honest with you. This isn't. I'm not buying yachts and fifth and sixth cars with this. I'm not buying a mansion, but I'm making enough to justify that I don't have to go out and get a 9 to 5. And I think the reason for that over the last 10 years is because I switched mostly to crime thrillers. Now, I'm prolific, 400,000 or more words a year. I did a video on it. Go watch that one. Hit the subscribe button while you're watching this one. And then when you're done with this one, go watch that one. For me, crime thriller writing it's just fun. It's creating characters, creating a lot of bad people. And bad people, either bad people that I've known in real life, bad people I've read about, bad people. I read a lot of nonfiction, so I love reading true crime books and stuff. People I saw on Investigation Discovery episodes. Me and my wife were watching one last night, and I'm like a mental note: what this woman just did to, or what this man just did to his wife. It's got to be in a book somewhere. So for me, it's the fun of it. It's the excitement. And again, not to say I don't read horror books, and I don't read, I read more than thriller books. I love horror short stories. For me, and again, Armand's opinion, horror works well as a short story, 5,000 words, 7,500 words, rather than 100,000 word novel. Okay, a 50,000 word horror book, I think, is a nice spot for it too. But I don't. It's like, get to it. Get to the twist. Get to the monster. Get to the bad part. Whatever it is. Okay. For me, as a reader and as a writer, I found it not hard, but I found it weird to figure out 50 to 100,000 words, anywhere in that range. I found that as a weird concept to write this, because I don't read those long books. I'm not interested. I've never read The Stand. I will never read The Stand. I don't want a book that you could hit somebody in the head with it and murder them. I don't want that. I'm not looking for a 600-page book. I want a 150, 200-page, great, easy, nice read. Boom, we get to it. Great ending. We're done with the book. I'll read those all day. I mean, the same with crime thrillers. I'm not reading books. I'm not picking up books that are super thick door jam books. I mean, Don Winslow, he writes some long books, but they're great books, so I give him a pass. For me, it's the it's the money, but it's also the ideas. The ideas are like I'm writing a book. I started writing a book several years ago called Devil's School. And at one point, I had put it up chapter by chapter on my Patreon page, one chapter a month on Patreon. And it was a supernatural, horror book, evil creature living in the basement of a school kind of thing. But I was writing the main characters as a crime thriller. And then it was almost for no reason. Then all of a sudden, 20 chapters in, we have this weird demon thing or whatever living in the basement. And I took it off of Patreon. I didn't even finish it. Took it off of Patreon, and I said, this is a crime thriller. This is a noir crime thriller. Okay, so Southern noir crime thriller set here in near Jacksonville, Florida. And so for me, I was like, this story would work so much better as a crime thriller. At the time I started writing it, I was like, I just want to do something. I got this idea, and I got a couple of mashup ideas, and I want to put them together. And I put a horror element with a crime thriller element, and I thought this is gonna work. And maybe it will. I don't know. So I started rewriting, and I pulled it down. I started rewriting a little bit. I got stuck at about 20,000 words, and I'll go back to that one once I finish the books I'm working on now. I will go back to that. I mean, I'm working on my 12th and final book, horror book for Severed Press right now. I'm probably a week or so from finishing it. These guns. Sorry. And I'm about a week or so from finishing it. And so then I will, I don't think I have any more horror to write. I'm doing a post-apocalyptic thing set in the dying days world, but like 60 years after now. I've done the permafrost is 30 years after. This next one, Carnifex, is 30 years after that. So I'm writing those, but they're not horror. There's not any horror in those books. And so for me, it's the crime thriller stuff that I just enjoy. So a great author to read is Dan Padavona. He did horror books for years. Lots and lots of horror books. He did very well with them. And then he started writing more thrillers. He started marketing them, the stuff he was writing, more as thrillers. And he's doing phenomenal with it. And I can see why. And he is a machine. I mean, he's knocking out books in like 40 days or something ridiculous like that. So he's kind of got his system, his the Dan Padavona factory running, up and running. So for me, that's amazing. And I kind of took his lead on that. And I said, you know what? If Dan can do it, I'm going to see if I can do it. And so far, so good. I've done quite well. I have a growing shelf or so of crime thriller books. Over the last 10 years, I've written quite a few of them, probably about 40 maybe, and more will be coming. Again, the next step for me is to get an agent, or at least to find a big enough publisher that I would be comfortable getting a small advance, and then let's see where this goes. And then in the meantime, keep writing books and not. I did another video why I'm not going to be self-publishing much anymore. So I still have a few books that will be self-published, only because I've set it up. I'm ahead of the game, which is nice. So over the next year, the goal is, in the next 18 months, is to get all of those books out, including box sets and different things, and be done with it. So that being said, for me, it was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer to just focus on the crime fiction. And after I've done with these last couple of horror books, I'm going to write some horror short stories. I always enjoy doing that. I have a ton of ideas for short stories, but most everything is going to be crime thriller, and it's going to be. My goal is in the next 2 years. So my goal is by 2028, the beginning of 2028, that I'm only doing crime thrillers. I'm hopefully will be known as a crime thriller author. I hopefully will be putting out books, and I'm not going to do 10 books a year. You know, my ultimate goal is to get an agent or get a big publisher interested in one of my southern gothic noir thrillers. That's a mouthful. I'm working on 3 of them right now in varying degrees of finishment. Probably not a word. And so for me, if I can get one of those published and I can get a nice jump and I can get out there with it and sell well, I have no problem writing one book a year. I'm going to write a bunch of short stories. I will probably write a ton of short stories in that time because I'm still going to do my 400,000 words. I can't help that. But if I'm doing a 80 to 100,000 word book every year, a thriller book like that, and then if I'm writing 2 or 3 of those a year and just kind of holding on to them, okay, here's the next book, or working with a couple of different publishers, however it works out. I'm not going to be doing those, 50,000 word books anymore. I'm going to be doing longer books. I'm going to be doing a lot of shorts. There's a lot of great crime thriller magazines and online, webzines and stuff that I want to be involved in, that I want to write for. And I feel like at this very moment, I feel like I just want to finish this stuff. I just want to finish these horror and horror related books and be done with them. So that's kind of how I went from horror to crime thriller. It was money, and it was just a kind of a change in perception. And I think Dan Padavona, what he did with his career, really showed me it can be done on Earth. Oh. And so that's it. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. I appreciate it. Watch a bunch of other videos. I have a lot of writing videos. Every Wednesday, every Sunday is a new video like this. And some Fridays, I've also done videos, or I will be doing videos, depending on when you watch this. So thank you for all your support. I really, truly appreciate it. And come hang out with me if you're around Monday, Wednesday, Friday, usually Tuesday and Thursday as well. Noon Eastern Standard Time, I go YouTube live, and I'm writing live, and I'm talking with people in the chat, and I'm really just wasting 2 hours of my day every day hanging out with you guys. So appreciate it.